Good evening. This is the Athens City Shade Tree Commission meeting for November 10th, 2011. We have a fairly short agenda. The first item is a proposal to plant some fruit trees at the East State Street Community Gardens, or close to there. I believe you're Badger and Badger Johnson. If you'd like to come up, or actually you can sit down there and probably give us the information. You can just tell us who you are, your address, and then why you're here.
My name's Badger Johnson. I am the Community Garden and Food Education Coordinator, as you can see on the paper, of community food initiatives. There has been an idea floating around, being kicked around for more expanded community orchards in Athens for a few years. Since that's a particular interest of mine, I talked to Rich Campitelli and Ann Bonner and been going into conversations about this, and it seems like it could work. We're going to start small, hoping to start small with about 6 pear trees there to the north of the children's garden. It gets, there's some considerations that I mentioned on there. The flooding is a really logical one to ask about, but most of it checks out. Like the trees in other places where it's flooded, they haven't died, even being underwater for a week or having their feet wet for a week. So, and looking at historical data, the most it usually floods there is for 3 days. So, we've kicked around a few other versions of this plan, but this seems like a good site. And yet, if you have any questions, well, first of all, let me back up. I'm really thankful for the work that the Shade Tree Commission does, getting trees in on the land. The developers like Walmart and Dollar General, I really appreciate those trees and that little bench there. So it's good to be here with you. And what questions and concerns do you have?
The first question I've got, it concerns the maintenance. You say here the city is offered to do initial trimming if needed first 4 years, after which CFI's community gardeners will maintain. Who in the city has promised to do that? Just so I can record it in here. Rich Campitelli. Okay, that's fine.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Because eventually these trees do need some maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says, well, we've got some manpower.
I would like to ask whether there are any of the men working for the city who trim trees are familiar with the techniques for trimming fruit trees, because that is very different from trimming shade trees.
Sure. So these are whips that are going in the ground and won't actually need any pruning for a few years.
Well, it was my impression that early pruning was the most important with fruit trees, to get the branches going out at the right places.
So to address the need for everyone to be as well informed as you are on this, we're going to be putting together some workshops. This is something that we do on an ongoing basis. We have just from every step of the way, seed to plate. We've had workshops. We have 3 this month, one on persimmons, their cultivation, and preparing recipes with them. And so it was my thought that as these trees grow and as other people come to greater awareness of fruit trees as a possible component in the urban environment, that we can have a series of workshops on pruning and on grafting and on cider press and this kind of thing, so that eventually people will be qualified to go and do it on a volunteer basis, and that we can have a sort of a small core of people like we do in the community gardens who are responsible for the site, even though it's not their land. And I look to England, actually, that has a long tradition of community orchards as an example. So
Did you know that there were some fruit trees at the children's garden which have been removed?
I guess I've seen some fruit trees down in that area. I don't know all the history of what's been going on there. Please fill me in.
Well, I used to be responsible for the children's garden.
Oh, cool.
And I was at the time that most of the fruit trees were planted. And we did have problems with the apple trees, but we had several years when there was flooding, and I think that might have caused part of the problems. One of the apple trees died after several years. One was very badly, and after I left, that was removed. And then the apple tree that was doing best, one year when the ground was very soft, we found it had fallen over. And there were roots sticking up in the air. Fortunately, we were able to get it back in, and it continued growing. But it may be that you can do this without any problems, but I do know that we had problems. I think the reason that all the fruit trees were removed was...
They weren't all removed. There are a number of fruit trees down there now.
There are?
Yes.
In the children's garden?
In the children's garden and outside of the children's garden, actually.
Well, is the pear tree still there? There's a little pear tree by the arbor. Just north of the
It
arbor.
was put in some years before Master Gardeners took over, and was a sizable tree.
Oh, really?
And it's no longer there. I have not been directly involved with the children's garden for several years. I think the reason they removed some of the trees was that they were wanting more room to grow vegetables.
Now, around the edge of the garden, they've started espaliering some smaller...
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Or fruit.
Okay.
So to the north side, we were thinking we'd plant
Okay.
a few trees on standard rootstock so as
Okay.
not to shade out even the morning sun. They suggested that we could also do it to the east of the garden, but I thought best to be conservative, and as you know, they will cast shade, and we want the maximum value from that garden, for sure.
Another problem we had with the pear tree, because I would watch every year and see, this year we'll have some pears. There would be the pear, they would set fruit, but there was, it was evidently attractive to people who would come pick the pears before they were ripe and then, in disgust, I guess, throw them to the ground. Because we did find pears that had been picked and then, so I don't know if we ever got a ripe pear. But just that it's a difficult situation with people who are not willing to wait until fruit ripens, or they don't understand. And you know, it's a place with, fortunately, a lot of young people, which is great, but that they don't always, understand about when to pick and waiting and understanding if that could be food rather than just entertainment. So.
We found that the pears and the apples and tomatoes and gourds were sometimes a lot of fun to throw.
Oh, yeah. Right. Projectiles.
I had a question. You said you're going to plant whips. What sort of preparation are you going to do for in the area where you are going to plant them? And how tall will the whips be?
From what I've seen, they're about this tall.
Okay.
And it's not fill there necessarily. There's a lot of silt, so it's not the worst soil.
Actually, the soil is pretty good there.
Yeah. Now, what I'm more concerned about is the mulching around them, because you probably don't want grass left where the trees are.
So sort of the standard operating procedure that the fruit tree growers that I've spoken to about this say is you lay down some cardboard to smother some weeds.
Yep.
Then you make not a volcano but a donut of
Yep.
mulch, maybe 4 inches deep and relatively wide, at least to the edge of the cage, which would be about 36 inches wide. And then maybe in the spring come back, it was suggested, just the first spring, rake out the mulch again, put down new cardboard because it will have decomposed, forming a new weed barrier, put the mulch back, and then just, leave it.
Okay.
Mulch helping to retain a fair amount of moisture there. If it's flooding, that's not a problem. But if it's a dry spring, that could be helpful.
Okay. Did you say a cage? You're going to be trying to protect these against rabbits and other
And deer.
deer?
Great. So we were thinking 2 by 4 inch, I think it's red brand, woven mesh, and it'll keep out the rabbits and the deer and give it room to grow for a few years. And also avoid getting hit by mowers, which is,
Yep.
as you know,
Very good, very, very good.
Yep.
Very important.
Okay. Yeah.
traumatic for both the trees and the people who planted them.
I'd just like to say that I'm not opposed to it, but I think it's good to try to look at all possible problems.
Certainly. Doing well, Jared. How are you?
You mentioned, is there some mature fruit trees already there?
Maybe 4th or 5th year from what it looked like.
So one of the things about this, and again, I'm positive towards it, but it's kind of a risky area to plant these. Even though these trees can get up to 10 inches diameter, it's probably unlikely it will happen with these trees because of the flooding. Have you considered maybe mounding it a little bit to bring it up just a little bit so their feet stay a little bit dry during those? I mean, if we have a big flood, there's nothing we can do. But I know that requires a lot more labor to do that. But if flooding's such an issue on there,
Well, we tried to mound, at least to some extent.
and it didn't happen, that didn't work.
Well, it got them up a little bit, but I think that tree that fell over, I think it was because the roots had stayed mostly in the mounded soil. And then the tree that leaned so badly, I think that was not as good quality tree. I think it was partly the tree that we received, but I think there it was partly the mounded soil.
Were they whips that you put in?
No,
So whips have a
Well,
better chance of getting into the soil and, establishing themselves.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
They were 2-year grafted, and I think that's probably more than a whip.
A little bit more.
Yeah, whip's just 1 year.
They were-
So that's the only thing that you're going to, it seems, invest a lot of time. And you might not get to the point where these trees mature enough before something happens, a big flood. And last year was a good example of that. And you might never get the produce that you're looking for from the bushels of pears on there. I don't know if mounding, maybe a different strategy of actually boxing them in a little bit, bringing them up maybe a foot or two with wood and filling it in, making sure that there's no boundary between the fill and the soil below. It's really good soil there. And that might be a strategy if you can just get them up a bit so when you do have those flooding events, it's not going to rot it out. I know personally from my own backyard, I have 2 pear trees, and the one that kind of floods grew half as much as the one that was just up, and the difference is only like 2 inches, and that's all it took. And you could, it wasn't amazing, but it was pretty incredible, the difference in growth in these 2 trees.
How much mounding do you think then?
Well, mine was a water table. One, the water lapped up against it, the other one didn't, and there was a difference. But I don't know what the normal flooding, I'm normally on the West State Street Gardens. It doesn't flood there, but I've heard a lot of stories that more floods towards I don't know how deep does it get? Typically.
It can cover the children's garden
Yes,
some years.
yes.
So how many inches?
Feet.
I don't think it was,
It would be Be 18 inches to 2 feet, I would think, earlier this year, wasn't it,
Really?
down there?
Well, I wasn't down there this year. The worst floods, when I was responsible for it, I think probably were a little less than a foot.
Yeah, a lot of times you get the water just at the
But-
level of the grass, and it's there for a few days.
There was enough that it lifted the, it lifted the frame around the raised beds, and they floated over, so we had to reestablish.
So, I mean, even if it goes up like 2 feet, a couple days of that's not a big deal. It's just that standing, obviously, that standing
Yeah,
water.
and that's why, 4 or 6 inches, I would think, would be ample
Just,
to...
if you get it up very high, then is there a concern about the dry periods in the summer?
I don't know, I think they would, I mean, the soil there, because they are silty, holds a lot of moisture. I don't, and there's people there, right?
There are people there.
You know, I
I
mean,
think we can look to some of the old bicentennial trees, and yes, they're ornamental varieties of apple, but some of those did good, and, you know, I think if you plant them properly, if we do the bare root thing, as opposed to potted trees,
We didn't have potted trees.
oh, yours were bare root too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's, boy, they can, I mean, it is, you know, every time you plant, it is a risk, but I'd be worried if they put too much, you know, I think the interface between bringing fill in with the silt, I'd be worried about that, and then.
you would have to get it from site, though.
Yeah.
If you can
yeah.
even.
It just would complicate it a lot.
It would.
I mean, there is another site that I think is interesting, and I know that they've got a plan where they want to do this every year in different sites. You know, they want this to be a multi-year thing. But it's on Hocking Conservancy District land, and I think that it is a bit higher. There's kind of like this, it's on the other side of the bike path, and you get up on this mountain, there's actually 4 apple trees that they planted 2 or 3 years ago, already growing there, and so that's kind of encouraging. But I don't know,
You know, again, you can not do it. It's just, you get that flood, you get a foot of water there, and then they're just done, and then you have to start over again.
So maybe one solution would be looking at this as a strategy to learn, because a lot of these future plantings will be near the river. We can try some of these on raised beds. Rich has offered, it's been really generous, and says, oh yeah, we'll drop off lots of compost or fill or whatever you want. I'm just like, okay, he's really behind us. Hey, Susan.
Can I come?
Yeah.
Am I all right? Is this on?
You're on TV. You know, maybe for 2 or 3, we could have a raised, 6 inches from on-site fill.
yeah.
And just see what happens,
experiment
you know?
and see, yeah.
6 trees isn't all that much, but it will be.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, last year we had a lot of flooding. It could be worse this spring, or it could be dry.
Yeah.
I mean, you just
Well, that's why I liked his idea of doing a few every year, because that way you're not saddling the city with the maintenance and all your volunteers with the maintenance of a whole bunch of trees at once, but if then you can kind of, over time, sure, some will live.
Can learn. I'd like to kind of see them sited in places that were a little more kind of discreet, because of, to put something almost an attractive nuisance, there, and then you say those darn kids, well, what is the park for? Oh, it's for the children, so, you know what I mean? It's kind of that, it's kind of like putting a community garden right where everybody's going to see it, and then saying, why are people taking this food, rather than having it sort of tucked away somewhere where it'd be accessible, but not quite as, maybe it's not even possible.
It is. We can be discreet. The other plantings in the coming years, I think, will be out of sight from anyone who's not looking for the trees. But it's really nice to be starting near a community garden, just for the fact that some of the people who will be studying with the master gardeners from the east side this coming spring will then probably go on to start an east side community garden, which is really exciting. And I'm hoping that they can be some of the people that will eventually look after these pear trees and come to these workshops. I'm going to stay on another year with CFI and get these workshops in line. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a learning process, but I think if we do it right, some of the trees will probably live.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. I think the tree commission, I'm looking around for nods and so on, I think the tree commission are fully in favour of this. I'll send a note to the Service Safety Director to that effect.
Thank you.
I think we've established now, we know who's going to maintain. This is always the big one, the maintenance. You've heard a lot of discussion about how to plant them and all the rest of it, and I think you're getting some good advice, but it's up to you how you plant them really at the end of the day. Because you're the one who's going to be maintaining the
$5 tree, $50 hole. I did say that to you, right?
Just now.
Oh, okay. I'll say it again.
But I think it is wise to start out with 6 at the start and then try and see how things grow, because you can easily start a project off this too big. I think this is a reasonable size project. So with that, I think we wish you well.
Thank you. And if you guys know anyone who wants to come out and plant those trees with me next week, I sent a couple of you that email, so you can forward that information on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. I don't have any other tree permit or right-of-way issues. I don't have any landscape ordinance issues either. We have a very short report from Ron Lucas. He told me that the fall planting list is proceeding, which means the planting of the bicycle path is scheduled but delayed, as far as I understand. But the trees that we recommended for various addresses in the city are going ahead from the list that we were given before. I don't have anything else on the emerald ash borer at the moment. Under other, we need to have a trip out to the Pepsi end of the bicycle path to remove some more vines from the oak trees. So afterwards we'll get together and see if we can come up with a date when we can go out on a field trip for that. Is there anything else?
What was the issue with those missing trees that Oahu said about some of them were cut down?
That concerned, he thought AEP
Yeah.
cutting trees down. I've not got a report back.
I noticed those on East State Street, 2 of the, well, they're ashes, but 2 of those large ashes across from the video store were cut down. But I assume that was just because we kind of encouraged them to cut down old ash
Yes.
trees. And that's why
It was that, and we've been encouraging them to, if there's a tree in the wrong site, and they've been heavily pruning it each time they come back, it's really better just to remove the thing. And so there were a number of sites where I asked Ron to ask the AEP if they would go back in and ask the owner if they could remove them, because I couldn't see any point in leaving these stumps standing there. We'd be better off trying to get small trees planted in the right places.
As an example of that, one of the trees behind the parking lot of that Knights of Columbus.
Yes. Yeah.
Those 2 at the top of Madison were trees that had been very heavily pruned a number of years and were not in very good condition.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of
It just seemed
dieback.
there was a lot of excitement over that.
I think it surprised Oahu. That's where that came from. But, yeah, and it can be a bit of a shock when you lose a tree with that sort of trunk.
And the wood was gone very quickly. That was another
Okay.
amazing thing.
They were silver maples.
Any other business?
Susan?
Is the Shively tree on your planting list, the one we took out, and I'll be on it?
No,
I'll get
I
ready
don't.
to do just actually Monday, when they make a big call. Got the list on file, but, I mean, Ron said he'd do it, but I'm happy to do it since we sort of.
Okay. I will check my...
OU's fault.
I will check my list, and I'll be in touch with you.
Shoot me a.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other, would there be any other, because I've got a little bit of money. I don't know, it just appeared. So I'm trying to fluff out the list and,
Okay.
so think of anything.
Yes,
that's
we'll-
happened, thoughts of what are we gonna do?
Yep. I'll be in touch.
The stump even at Old Baker, like the carcass.
Yeah.
Is he going away and some, I mean, you know,
The honey locust
the
on.
honey locust, I replaced those.
It's the
College.
radio. It's the one by the radio building. Yeah, the stump.
Is, anyway,
Yeah.
whatever, I can see us going for it, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Susan.
And for the audience watching this, that's Susan Callahan from Ohio, Calhoun from Ohio University. Is there anything else? If not, we've got our minutes from the last meeting to read over and then approve. And we noted that Emily wasn't there, but Alvy was.
Right, can't type either.
That needs to be changed.
That should be, I guess, November 10th.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I don't know how that one got in there. Because the next meeting, according to me, is December 8th. Yeah. I think that's right, isn't it?
Okay, those are corrections.
So are there any other corrections? If not, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I second.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, John. Any objection to approving the minutes? Hearing none, we have approved minutes. Our next meeting, I think, is the second Thursday of December, the 8th. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.